Hi, give this feed kind of a second to load, but I am going to be talking a little bit about kind of Egypt, and I'm just going to kind of see where it takes me to. It's been a minute since I've done a video, and we have a really big kind of energy coming in right now. We have a lot of really big kind of storm energy coming in. I just opened the window too so I could get some more of that kind of cosmic energy in here as I'm doing this feed. So I thought it was a good time to just have a chat about Egypt. So I'll give it a second so some people can find me if they're going to. I know it's kind of early, but I want to chat Egypt, and this is a really good energy to be doing it in. We have a lot of cosmic energy shifts kind of unfolding and occurring. And, why the draw? If I was to post something about some of these subjects, a lot of people would be drawn to some of these areas. Just to start, we have a lot of people that are experiencing this time now, like a lot of timelines. And so a lot of souls have experienced past incarnations in some of these places that we talk about. These would have been kind of rather big kind of places in learning, if you will. I'm very drawn to certain places when it comes to our past. I always say I'm definitely not the History Channel. Anytime I've ever tried to watch anything on Egypt or any of the movies, they seem to focus on certain time periods, and it's not really what I'm into. When it comes to that, you get really boring kind of History Channel kind of stuff, and I really think that our history is not what it seems though. And that I think that there's a big attempt to kind of rewrite our past as well to disempower us on some level. So I can never really kind of look at this history and be able to tell anyway. I always am just sharing my own perspective, and I think that's the beautiful thing about this, that, we're always kind of bringing out our own worlds and just kind of sharing how we see things as well. But this would have been a place that, I'm kind of drawing people back to now, because a lot of the things that I've been learning about Egypt are very relevant to what I'm doing now. I seem to already kind of have this internal knowing of what to do that I have noticed kind of correlates a lot with past Egyptian teachings, as well as some of the Celtic kind of stuff that I'm getting into here. They're into a lot of the same kind of, we'll say, energy shifts that I'm already kind of internally tuned into and kind of doing in a different way with this ascension and things like that. So it's kind of bringing a lot back in my journey. Just to start, I like to think of some of these past places as higher levels of consciousness. A lot of times we're trying to look at the past through the lens of the third dimension to understand it, and we don't understand that some of these places could have existed on kind of higher frequencies, higher timelines, if you will. So, sometimes we're kind of looking at it. A lot of times, I know from what I was taught as a kid, I had a lot of kind of Bible programming and things like that. And it says in the Bible that, the Egyptians were wiped out because they worshiped multiple gods. And I think right there, a lot of what is kind of woven together in this book with these past experiences kind of transmits a lot of fear to keep people away from certain areas and things like that. But this was a time when people were very much more connected spiritually. They lived at higher levels of consciousness, and we can either debate what maybe the gods were walking among them and living among humanity during those times. This isn't the first cultural account where people have talked about accounts of gods, maybe descending from the heavens, coming to the planet, right? And, merging with and even having human wives and human, half god, half human descendants. We can see that about past places, not just with Atlantis and stories from that, where we talk about Poseidon having had human children and the people of Atlantis being Poseidon's descendants. And, they talk about these times when people were living in abundance and also blessed by these gods. So we see a lot of that with a lot of Viking mythology as well. We say mythology, but I think it's more history. We see that with a lot of Viking culture where they talk about the gods coming and having children as well. So this was a time when the gods and, spiritual was much more apparent on this planet as well. I like to think of the ancient Egyptian deity gods. This group of gods, it's debatable, were they gods? Were they extraterrestrials descended to teach Did they come from Atlantis? We have a lot of questions about these periods, but the people definitely regarded them as the gods. And so I see that a lot of with spirituality kind of making a comeback. There's also a remembering that is kind of occurring. A lot of people are feeling the need to get away from, we'll say, modern beliefs and kind of step back into past ones and things like that. Let's see. So gods definitely lived among the people of Egypt for sure. They had huge temples. The pharaohs were also regarded as gods too. I think that we can see there was a time when there was struggle, and that the best accounts that come out of the best lessons that come out of Egypt for me are, we see a lot of duality at a certain point. I believe there's different periods, like I said, of Egypt, and a lot of the, like, we'll look at Hollywood old movies, right? They started making a lot of old Egypt kind of Cleopatra themed movies, and kind of like different pharaohs, but they were all kind of later. A lot of those, you know, what is known mostly about Egypt will be the kind of the negative, the struggle, the duality, the good and dark, right? The light and dark, good and evil, struggle. We see a lot of, we have accounts from the Bible where they talk about plagues and possible magic being used, right? Plagues, maybe stories of magic being used or misused. We also see that a lot of human beings kind of went wrong with using their power maybe for not such good purposes, kind of turning service itself, and we see a lot of that kind of stemming out of there. But I think that if we went back farther, that's where our history, a big chunk of it, has been hidden from us, where people were kind of, we'll say, in alignment, were in spiritual harmony, would know their place, would be kind of living as one. And I believe that these places were mainly on a fourth dimensional frequency, so they kind of really resonated with, obviously, the heart chakra as well. Let's see, I'm going to learn everything, right? Yeah, now we're going to get back to magic, right? All right, so I want to talk a little bit about how maybe Egyptians would kind of go about things, and this might be familiar to you guys as well. Everything was regarded as magic. In every encounter, we have this consciousness around us, within us, everywhere, experiencing life with us. We're never alone. I like to think of this energy personally as kind of like a source field of energy. I refer to it as source. I feel that the term gods, there's many gods, and there have been many gods on this planet, and it's such a kind of weird term that's been thrown around a lot. Usually it has a very male-oriented kind of connotation, something outside of yourself, some deity, things like that. And I've kind of gotten back to energy. We're all energy. When we die, we just change form. There's energy around everything. All life has an aura, not just us. Plants do, animals do, things like that. But, you know, they were really big into ritual. I believe that a lot of where we're at now stemmed from Egypt too, because we can see that the Roman Empire kind of took over, but they also stole a lot of things culturally. I mean, I believe that we had a lot of tampering with humanity that occurred on this planet that I won't get into right now, right? And so I believe that a big chunk of ourselves was kind of taken from us at some point. We can see that, you know, that was a powerful empire that really has spanned the globe, because we can see that Christianity is not that old, but yet it has spanned globally on such large levels. We can look at the Vatican maybe as in more of control of things than some of the monarchies, or having more of a power, we'll say, especially 100 years ago, that they would really have that, oh, God wants this kind of power. You have to do this, or it's bad with God and you're not going to heaven, and those kind of things. And we can really see where things kind of went downhill in terms of religious systems. But we can look at a lot of those systems and see a lot of that was taken from some of these past cultures. We can see kind of repeating stories. All right, so we see the Egyptians talk about the gods fighting, maybe not getting along. We can look at many stories to look at this, right? Let's get into, like, Osiris, Set, right? We have the dark and evil and the good and bad brother. Sounds a little bit like biblical kind of stuff. Immaculate Conception, but we have that not just in Egyptian kind of history and Christianity. That kind of goes around the planet too. That we see a lot of our history kind of repeating itself in kind of a, I don't know, kind of cheesy kind of way as well. So we see that there was a disharmony with the gods. The Sumerians talk about this too. So we can see that there were many kind of ancient societies and what's kind of left of some of the bigger societies that existed. The Sumerians talk about where there was a war with the gods, literally. They also talk about maybe people being genetically modified. They talk about people possibly being either, you know, their DNA manipulated in labs or being made in that type of way. And we see that some of these stories overlap where they talk about a war with the gods, that some of these gods may not have been all good or all love and light, and that, you know, they could have been not getting along or having disharmony. And we can also see that theme with the Bible too, because I really believe they talk about maybe these being different entities that have appeared kind of throughout time in these spiritual accounts. Oh, we're doing Egypt. So, we're into a lot of ritual. I think the Roman Catholic Church took a lot of stuff from Egypt. They do a lot of ritual. If you go into a Catholic church, they're probably going to do some type of standard, have some Holy Communion, and they're going to do a ritual. I'm not sure the intentions behind these rituals, but we can see a lot of rituals being done. You know, sometimes a ritual can be really simple. It could be taking a salt bath, a cleansing. It could be an intention. You know, I'm into like manifesting lists, all the things I'm always talking about. These are rituals as well. And the thing was that the Egyptians really regarded everything as magic, that they would bring magic into everything. And I realized there's kind of familiarity with me there, because I'm doing that all the time too. Like if I'm cooking food, I'm putting good vibes into it, putting good energy into it. I'm trying to put love into the food I'm creating. Or, you know, with anything that I'm trying to do, I'm becoming more and more, hopefully, intentionally and consciously aware of, you know, the energies and the frequencies that I'm putting into these small kind of tasks. So everything would have been kind of regarded as magic to them. The power of words. All right, these were fourth dimensional places, and, you know, they could instant manifest. It was different. We're always trying to look at history through the lens of a third dimensional kind of context, like with the pyramids. Oh, it must have been slaves. We can't explain how these could have been built and things like that, because like I said, they're always trying to view it. They could never understand that some of these past civilizations could be way more spiritually advanced than we are now, and that if anything, there may have been a fall or a descent that is occurring. And this is probably the first time, I mean, since Egypt, we've been on that level, that as these energies are coming in and raising us up to the fourth dimensional level, which they have, we're kind of where they were at once at this place, kind of. So there's a lot kind of coming back from the past. We're beginning to be able to manifest easier and easier. And so we've been taught and programmed to just kind of throw around words and talk about what's going on with us and to talk about the maintain, right? But they would regard every word as magic. Literally, that they would talk about in an adept way the things that they would want to see or create. Let's see. I think that a lot of the negative things that we kind of just touch base over, like plagues and we'll say sickness. We see a lot of sickness that accompanies some of these things, and we can kind of see that happening now today. Like that we already kind of have a lot of kind of sickness and spiritual things and poverty and things like that. And those were things that came out of people misusing their powers. That I believe that, you know, there was a corruption that unfolded in the priesthoods, in some of, you know, the higher places such as temples and kind of more spiritual areas, and that this is kind of where we've ended up from it all. So we can see that in Egyptian times, that, you know, misuse of power resulted in everyone kind of going to being broke, enslaved, sick, right? So they go from Eden, beautiful spiritual paradise, and everyone's, you know, into the spiritual. And what happens every time with every civilization is they usually fall away from the spiritual. And, you know, I look at it like we're meant to be creating with source, with this conscious energy, and it probably gets boring for the universe, who's experienced everything ever. And when we're not including a role for the universe in our story, it probably gets sick of playing. It wants to go do something else or create something new. We need to learn that this conscious energy is always flowing. It is always expanding. It is always, you know, dying to create something new, something better, right? And so we kind of have to learn how to flow with that. We see that though when they step away from the spiritual, and that we can see, you know, these kind of civilizations have fallen in the past, but this would be a place, like I said, that our soul would not only remember, but would have learned some very important, powerful lessons that we're still working on completing now, which is kind of far from the past that we're talking about, that we've seen humanity kind of continue to evolve past this place. let's see. Good morning. We're talking about Egypt. All things Egypt. I forget. I forget half of what I'm supposed to be talking about, but I thought we could talk about Egyptian vibes. So a lot of you guys are kind of coming back to the, I think if you're drawn to this video, you're not here random, I swear. It's like, all right, I believe that, and this is just what I've taken from these subjects, I believe that there was kind of a, we'll say, merging of timelines where there were Egypt and Atlantis may have existed at the same, during the same time. At the least, these places would have had a lot of Stargate technology, and they would have had the capacity to do things we haven't even begun to step back into at the moment. They had a lot of like powerful technology. Any of these past civilizations knew how to harness a lot of the ley line energy, cosmic energies, to use them. There is a lot of talk from like the Law of One that the pyramids were a powerful generator that was used to basically heal and enlighten everyone in the area. And that because of the planet's fall into lower frequencies, these pyramids might be kind of unusable at the time. I'm sure that there's a lot of very divine, you know, powerful energies still going through those ley line areas, but they wouldn't be operational now the same as they would have kind of been in those past timelines. Egyptians were very into death, which is another topic I'm going to do tomorrow, right? I'm like, all I want to talk about is out-of-body traveling, astral traveling, death, and the real weird stuff people probably don't want to get into. So that's a chat for tomorrow, but these classes kind of coincide with what I'm getting into. So the Egyptians had a huge focus on death. A lot of you guys might be having a spiritual awakening. It might even be feeling like you're going through some type of death. We talk about death of the ego, but what is the ego? A physical construct, right? Part of our personality. People say it's part of our soul, part of our, you know, who we are this life, we'll say. And a lot of you guys at the least are going through some type of ego death, kind of time and time again, probably with this ascension, where we're being encouraged to step past that, you know, limited body human role that you kind of have believed that you are and get back to our infinite nature. The Egyptians had a very adept understanding of the physical bodies. They had a very good understanding, clearly, of the third eye, but of the astral body as well. They were into transcending the physical, which is something I'm into too. If anyone's had like a near-death experience, then now that you're back, you can probably astral easier or meditate and leave your body easier or detach, because once we kind of transcend the ego, the physical, that's how we can kind of travel with our astral body. They were really into different types of energy bodies. They understood that, you know, life is just a journey into death, and that once we die, we continue our journey. We have the Egyptian Book of the Dead, right? I've never had the time to like read it or some of these things, but fascinating stuff. If you're trying to get more into that topic, for sure, I would read it, because these are meant to be spell books. Remember, the Egyptians regarded everything as spells. I'm just gonna throw this in here too, random, but a lot of the stories of mummies would have been because some of these people were trying to rob the tombs and sacred sites and beautiful spiritual things, and don't, like they say, these people clearly were adept with spiritual protection and things like that. So a lot of these kind of stories would come out of these were very magical places. So a lot of the writings and things that have been, you know, brought back from these times were powerful spells, rituals. It was magic. So a lot of their work centered around when you died, and I'm getting a really good understanding of that now, this life anyway, so it kind of leads me back to there, that this was meant to be like a guidebook for when you died, and the journey that your soul will take through the afterlife. I don't remember, but I studied some kind of Greek mythology when I was a kid, and I was always obsessed with, they have the journey where they go in the boats and you pay the ferryman with the gold, and you go on this journey, and maybe you go to the afterlife, maybe not, right? We can see a similarity, though, between past Egyptian stuff. I believe a lot of what came out of Greece later would have been kind of recollection, we'll say, from Atlantis as well. So we can kind of see like a theme between cultures. We can say pyramids all around the world. They didn't just have pyramids during Egypt. They had them in Atlantis as well with very similar technology. I think that some of these past places are hard to find because, like I said, people are looking for them in a third dimensional construct, and sometimes we can only see what we're able to perceive or what we're a frequency match to with some of these past places. So they were huge on the afterlife, you know, on working this life towards the afterlife. People always think that we just die and everything's going to magically fade away and we're going to go to heaven, but they would understand that the soul would continue to journey. I believe that the spiritual awakening and this process happening to the planet is doing funny things around here. I believe that this planet has shifted into some type of fourth dimensional astral realm, whether people are aware of it or not. It's almost like we have left the physical and we are almost living in an astral realm now. This is just my perspective and how I'm feeling about it all. And so would that not be to transcend the physical body, to literally be alive but existing in higher frequencies? And so we can see that our body is probably going to continue to lose density, and we're going to become hopefully lighter and lighter doing this process, and probably turn into more and more of a almost light body, like less physical, more light body. What's the light body? When we go to sleep, that's your light body. You leave your body every single night with these energies. They're powerful. You guys are going to start to remember more and more of the dream world. I think that's the real world we exist in, and I look at it like, congratulations, you just came back to Prison Planet, a school, a place where your soul comes to work and to kind of do some heavy, deep kind of stuff here too as well. So every night we go to sleep, we journey very similar to the astral life, other dimensions. Some of you guys have had very spiritual encounters with loved ones in the astral dimensions, things like that. So we know that our soul is able to travel. I think that there has been a huge attempt to keep us shut down spiritually from our foods, medications, the things going on with, God forbid, healthcare, we say it, right? Healthcare, the things around us, and that there is a huge attempt to keep humanity in slavery, dumbed down so people don't even notice, right? How do you keep people in slavery if they don't know they're a slave and they're kind of programmed to just continue to work and consume, and people are just kind of going about their life? So what shuts us down spiritually and is bad for our body keeps us imprisoned in the body, because our soul is meant to be able to, or different aspects, to travel, to journey. We're meant to be able to leave the body when we meditate, when we sleep, to go to other dimensions, right? And to kind of be one with our higher self outside of this construct. So a lot of the things that are bad for us, for our physical body, are imprisoning our soul in the body so that we cannot travel as easy too. I love it. A lot of you guys, I love it. Yeah, that's another topic too. And then Ashley just reminds me, right? They were huge into purifying. And when I hear anything about like these times, I'm already naturally doing that, I see. So they were huge on, you know, what makes someone a better, more powerful healer would be the more pure that your energy and body is. This goes on a spiritual level too, though. We're not just detoxing the physical body. As I say this 3 years into detoxing. I've probably been hardcore detoxing for like maybe 4 to 5 years. Right? We're not just purging out the physical body. It might feel like that. It might feel like we had that many toxins that we would continue to just, you know, purify the body. We're also purifying the soul. And our body really is a filter for our soul. So is our personality, right? On so many levels. So we're doing a lot of kind of purifying and cleansing of the soul too. That's why we're getting back to these abilities. When I talk about these past lives, I try to explain it the best I could. You've had your power stripped, I would assume, because we were asleep to such a point. And we had our power taken on so many levels. And this is the life where we get it back and step back into it. And as we're doing that, it's very important that we're using our abilities to assist the collective, to help people, right? Sharing our abilities, assisting the collective, being service of others. That's what this was all meant to teach us. We all kind of saw what a service of self world looks like. Your past. What a service of self place can look like, and how it can be negative for everyone. And if everyone is service of others, we could live in a utopia and, you know, much different place. I feel that's a lot of the lesson from past times. A lot of it is letting go of fear too. We can look at the locusts and the sickness, where people begin to doubt the spiritual as well and let fear kind of take over with the manifesting as well. We have to really step into our power with what we're creating and sharing as well right now. Okay, let me see. Now, what I like too, and I'm just going to throw this in here. Okay, what I like too, a lot of the priests and priestesses, and a lot of you guys may be drawn to this because you might have had time in some of these places, like I said, and probably very spiritual places as well. A lot of the priests and priestesses knew that all that they could do when they're working with someone was to pray to the universe, pray to the gods. They leave it in the hands of the gods. And that's really similar to me right here. So I like to think I can work miracles too, but it's always in the hand of the universe. And we have a huge kind of spirit message today that literally our fate has been predetermined. And a lot of people just need to learn how to relax and kind of go with the flow. And I know it doesn't always feel like that, and it can be scary, and oh my God, we don't know what's coming, and we're navigating the unknown. But, you know, this is meant to be a beautiful journey where everything's kind of come full circle from these places. So we can see that people kind of fell into darkness or allowed the darkness to take over. We like to think that maybe ideas such as the cabal and maybe power struggles may have originated from some of these places too. And we could see a lot of kind of wars beginning to play out in some of these past timelines. If you look at, you know, past and around the planet, we can see a lot of kind of 3D stuff, like I said, poverty, war, sickness, and things that have continued to kind of come out of all of this as well. Alright, so you guys should be drawn to pyramids. They're powerful. A lot of you guys are drawn to little crystal pyramids, powerful too. Seriously, very powerful conductors for energy as well. Some of you guys are drawn to the pyramids. I like to think that at one point in time I was in this group and I was posting about a lot of ley lines around the planet, Stonehenge being one of them. And look, I'm going to do Stonehenge videos next month or whatever. And so the things that we are talking about are manifesting rapidly. I'm kind of getting on an Egypt kick now, and rest assured I'll for sure be doing videos there ultimately too. So we're kind of putting out creations with the things that we talk about, whether we're aware of it or not. I think that the adept just become really consciously aware of how this stuff works and put a lot more kind of intention and kind of mindfulness into these things. A lot of you, I brought the Malachite. A lot of you guys are drawn to Malachite. For sure, very Egyptian, so I don't remember some of these places, right? I don't always remember some of these places, but I've been really drawn to things like Malachite, especially in my life. You wouldn't believe how many Malachite crystals I have or have been drawn to. I also usually will wear one too. I think it's a good protection amulet. It's very good for healers. It can really help us. It's really good for the heart chakra, Malachite. Let me see. So powerful for healing, powerful for keeping bad vibes away from you, powerful for protection. Not a bad idea if you resonate with Egypt or being a healer to get some Malachite. It's one of my favorite crystals. Very deep for the heart chakra. Let's see. I love it. Read in the comments. Some beautiful places, and you guys are for sure getting called to these places, I swear, right? You guys are for sure getting called to these places because we are all kind of are mastering codes. If you've had an issue in your life like addiction and you have overcome it, congratulations, you got a set of codes that can help other people with that same issue, right? So we're all kind of encoded with energy and things like that. So the things that you have mastered, you're probably carrying codes for. If you've been activated or attuned, you're carrying those as well in your energy field. And sometimes we're being called to come to these places of the earth so that we can bring these codes and activations to the earth as well. And it's very sacred work that we're doing. You know, anyone on this field is doing very sacred work and just healing themselves. Swear that's what's going to heal this planet. And so this is very sacred work that we're kind of being called to kind of do. All right, protection. So Egyptians knew that everything wasn't always love and light. They had a lot of dark stuff that played out. It's debatable on which timelines. There may have been several versions of Egypt in some of these past places. I'm not an expert on this, but we can probably agree that they dealt with a lot of dark stuff, right? And so they were kind of adept in magic. They would use magic to protect themselves as well. So they were really big on protection. A lot of their little things, that hieroglyphics they would have left around would have been like protection spells and things like that, because, you know, a lot of what people seem to be interested in is like, you know, tombs and things like that. So a lot of these were like protection spells, things like that. So let's see, more Malachite. They were really big just on protection, on healing. They had beautiful healing temples, much like Atlantean times. When I think about the priesthood of Egypt, I think it kind of went all wrong there. But I believe that we have a lot of speculation that were the gods aliens? Was there separate encounters with aliens? We have a lot of very, we'll say, notable channelings that talk about actual crafts landing during these times, that there was actual spaceships that landed, and the last time they may have landed on this planet would have been back during Egyptian and Atlantean times. That would make sense to me because these would be beings on higher frequencies. We do have a lot of light beings around us, right? Whether it is our angels, our guides, ascended masters, possibly extraterrestrials assisting us for sure during these times. I believe people had to be of a high enough frequency to perceive and work with these beings as well. When there's disease and sickness everywhere, it's not usually good for very pure spiritual beings to be around as well. I know that because, you know, I kind of resonate with being a starseed, and if I'm around a lot of negative energy, it probably makes me not feel so hot. So for sure, as we're kind of working our way back up past a fourth dimensional to fifth dimensional level on this planet, you know, we're probably going to be opening ourselves up more to these things. You know, they talk about the gods returning. Who are these gods? Right? We have many groups of gods. They talk about maybe Anunnaki gods. They talk about Egyptian gods. They talk about extraterrestrials. And so we kind of have a lot kind of going on, but I think it's really important to take what resonates for you and kind of decide what you want to create in your universe as well. That's where we're going to find our power this year. Instead of people telling us what's going to happen or unfold, we can kind of step into that role as like creator of our own story and choose, what do you want to happen, right? But I think it's very important that we're bringing more of this past spiritual energy back. I will remind you, these are cultures that predate Christianity and a lot of what the world perceives and believes to be true. And that these are very ancient cultures after being so kind of misled by what we're taught to believe in. I think it's important that we're getting back to these past teachings and learning anything that we can from them, because they had a better idea of how the world worked than we do, being so spiritually disconnected and spiritually polluted. So they seem to have a better understanding about things like, you know, astral dimensions, life after death, reincarnation, our purpose, our place, living one with karma, things like that. Something happened, we don't know. And then Christianity was born, and we all kind of ended up here. So I think it is really important that we're kind of drawing on the past. I love it. Alright, I'm going to be going because I'm going to be trying to do a real video in this group. I definitely started a new year in this space. I'm going to be bringing some really awesome, fun activations to this space too, to the class spaces. I'm going to be live tomorrow. We're going to continue this chat, but I want to go more into the astral and, you know, other dimensions outside of this place tomorrow. So we'll just continue on this chat in Lemurian Dream School. If you guys haven't done the yearly energy exchange, please see the pinned post so that you guys can get activated. I'm going to be bringing through some really awesome activations next week in these two classes. So we're going to do Lemurian Dream School tomorrow. We have a lot of storm energy coming in right now, so I'm going to get off here and do like a real kind of we'll talk about the energy. We're going to go through an amazing porthole on Sunday for 2/2. Next Sunday we have a full moon that is called a storm moon. And so we're going to go into some pretty high frequency energy too. So we should be using it. Whatever that means to you, I'm going to try to use it and get some videos done, right? We should be using it to get things done, to move. We don't want to be stagnant, because when we are kind of being proactive, a lot of our manifestations tend to come to us during these gateways. This is a powerful gateway for love too, because we're kind of going through that porthole in that moon. We go into like Valentine's Day, but it's meant to be powerful for love this time of year. I came together in a relationship. It would have been March. We're almost to the equinox, and that's a really powerful time for spiritual unions to come into play. So we know that from this period until like the Lion's Gate, it's very powerful. If you guys are in a relationship, it can kind of take it up a higher level. It can be really good for these kind of unions, right? Coming back into more alignment, things like that. But we're going to continue through this process. I'm going to leave you in love and light though.